You know, there's been a lot of clashing going on lately. On one side, you have the people that say, be strong, become competent, build yourself, learn self-control. And on the other side, they spend all their time calling the first side like incels and stuff like that. It's really just name calling. It's pretty obvious to anyone with a brain which side is right, but occasionally, I always like to reconsider. I'm an open-minded guy. Maybe the Andrew Tate and Jordan Peterson fans are wrong. Maybe the Ethan Klein and Hassan Abi fans were right all along. So every once in a while, I go back and reassess the situation. And this time I was prompted by two things. The first was someone asked me a question. Is it better to be smart or strong? If you asked me when I was a kid, I would say smart. If you ask me now, I would say strong. Because you can't manifest smart ideas without the strength to do them. But if you give me some time to think about it, I would say it's a trick question. They're the same thing. Any smart person would make themselves strong. Only a stupid person would allow themselves to be weak. Let's say I want to, build a house by myself. Well, I can be super smart and make the blueprints and the design and the 3D model and plan it all out. But if I'm physically incapable of lifting the logs of wood and placing them on top of each other, then it's not really that I'm smart, but I'm not strong. Because if I was truly smart, I would have spent time every day making my body physically capable of putting together that house. Strength isn't a physical thing. It's a mental thing. You can decide to be more strong. The more mental strength you have, the more physical strength you will have because you can push yourself forward. So it's not necessarily that you get to choose between being smart or strong. You can either be both or neither. And here's the proof. Once again, I think the best kinds of philosophies, the best kind of proofs don't involve any kind of empirical data. They don't involve any sort of historical events. They don't involve anything that relies on anything else. They're just purely logical, hidden deep within your brain that you already know to be true, but you just don't think about it deeply enough, so you don't actually realize it. And by pushing you to think deeper, you then realize it's true. I think that's where the best philosophy lies. So here is my proof that relies on nothing else except for your brain, that you can either be both smart and strong, or you can be neither. You've all heard that quote, don't attribute to malice that which can be explained with incompetence. This quote in itself, if you believe it, is proof that malice and incompetence leads to the same results. Because the quote is profound in that it's reminding you that there could be a misattribution in the cause. However, by doing so, it implies that it will have the same effect. Malice or incompetence. These are two reasons that you can attribute something to, but the result is the same. If someone gets hit by a car and they're dead on the side of the road, what good does it do for you to say, was it malice or incompetence, if it results in the same thing? As far as I'm concerned, incompetence is malice. If you're choosing to drive while drunk, or you're choosing to drive while falling asleep, then you're just as bad as someone going out and intentionally trying to hit someone with their car, because it results in the same thing. If you truly cared about the person who died, truly, and you weren't bullshitting, you were honest with yourself, and you wanted to stop innocent pedestrians from getting killed, you would assign the same punishment regardless of intent. Because intentions don't matter. Actions do. I intend to make $1 billion. Does that mean I'm gonna do it? My 7th grade teacher intended to become the mayor. Does that mean he did? Kanye intends to unite people. Does that mean he's done it? Amber Heard intended to donate. Does that mean she did it? Actions matter. If your intentions can't be backed up, then they're nothing. You can have as many intentions as you want. It means nothing. And what actions are is intentions backed by competence. So if you want to do some action, you intend to do it, then you also need to cultivate the skills to do it. That's not trivial. People think they could just do anything. They think they could just be a good person. Oh, be good, make the right decisions. No, it's not that easy. It's a skill and it has to be acquired and practiced. It's something people forget when they forego practicing strength and stoic traditions. If you truly want to be an active force for good, you not only have to be beneficent, you also have to be competent enough to allow your intentions to manifest into the world. Otherwise, regardless of how pure your intentions are, your existence will be no greater than that of malice. Let's talk about the show. It's based off the book, The Count of Monte Cristo. Some people may not realize it, but this is actually one of the most influential and important pieces of literature in the world. Only once you realize it do you notice it everywhere. There's a reason that the book is mentioned in The Shawshank Redemption. OP is beautiful, so is the rest of the visuals. This was the first time I've ever seen an art style even remotely like this, and I'm absolutely in love. It's so risky, so colorful, yet I can clearly make out everything in the scenes. Yeah, it's a gimmick for sure, but the gimmick works. If the show has Sakuga moments, it'll be really hard to tell the difference. When I think about it, I'm actually kind of shocked this is real. Like, how the hell do you get investors to sign off on this? At some points, it is a bit jarring, like when the characters move, but their very detailed textures stay in one place. But at other times, it works way better than a realistic art style, because you've suspended your disbelief into a much deeper abyss than normal. So when they want to elicit a feeling, they could just change the entire fucking color palette, or they could change the whole damn background into a kaleidoscope to make it seem like he's going insane, and it doesn't ruin the immersion. And when you see that count, oh my god, that's what does it. Like, if you were iffy on the art style when watching it earlier, this is when you realize, like, the risk paid off. He's got a great voice actor too. I watched it in Japanese, I don't know about the dub. And it isn't just the art style that's great. It's the whole aesthetic. It's set 3,000 years in the future, yet they drive cars that look like they're from the 20s. Sometimes they even ride in chariots led by horses, except the cars look like they have no unsprung weight at all, and the horse can be implanted with some crazy nanotech that lets it be controlled. The aesthetic is just so damn cool, dude. Giant, like, planet-wide festivals of hedonistic indulgence. Everyone goes to the opera, and some of the highest-ranking members of society can't even get a seat in there. It's like a status symbol to have a nice seat. The, like, old-timey outfits and the pocket watch. The way that they use these, like, holographic screens with AI voice assistants, but at other times they use letters with wax stamps. It's just so cool. I feel like they could like remaster this and like go all out, go even more risky. With a much larger budget, it could have been a lot better, but it's already great. I love seeing a world like this. It's like a type 2, type 3 civilization, but unlike all these other depictions of the future that grow more and more unlikely as time goes on, because it's really hard to make accurate predictions, this one just tries to be all artsy. Crime is still a huge deal, and crime bosses even scare the highest members of government. Fashion is something that people devote like a third of their lives, third of their brain powers towards. Hedonism is a viable option as a lifestyle choice. People have lifespans so long that 60 is considered young. You still hear those like loud roaring V8 engines. It's amazing. I know I've only talked about the aesthetic of the show so far. I haven't really talked about the narrative, but people don't really know this. When I was little, I used to make these analysis videos. Only a few of them have ever been posted to YouTube, and they're all gone now. And I will talk about, like, not really my interpretation, but like what I thought was the correct interpretation of a show or a movie. And then I realized when I was like 13 how pointless that actually was. Everyone's gonna get something different out of it. And by doing that, it diluted my own ability to analyze film for myself. And the thing is, that kind of video is really pretentious. To make that kind of video is either selfish or evil, and those are not the same thing. Because if I'm analyzing film, but I'm not doing it for myself, the only other reason is to flex. Like, hey guys, look how smart I am. I can understand the author's original intent. But that's beta shit. Analyzing a writer's original intent doesn't make you a good writer. It makes you a good script supervisor. And I wasn't made to be a sidekick. That's why the videos I make now, I don't pull my punches. Don't expect this to be some cushy book club where you talk about the fundamental rules of story and how the show followed them and it turned out to be good, or how the show didn't follow them so it turned out to be bad. No, my opinions are about life, because film is just life with all the boring crap cut out of it. First of all, I love how pure the characters are. The way you tell a compelling story is by writing interesting characters and putting them in interesting situations and just seeing what happens. Fate is boring. It's why politically driven media sucks, because let's say, for example, the 1,000 movies where the villain is based on Donald Trump. What they'll do is they'll take the guy, they'll make him evil for no reason, and then in the end he loses because his evil leads to his downfall. But all these stories suck, even people who hate Donald Trump, because it isn't like real life. People don't just do things for no reason. You can't just have a villain say, I want to destroy the world, and their reasoning be because they just want to. And you also can't determine what happened to them. By deciding both cause and effect of your story, you strip your characters of any sort of free will. They stop being characters, and people are unable to resonate with them. This is a story of revenge. It makes people mad, and rightfully so. There is ample opportunity to make some political propaganda, have some anti-capitalism message, or some anti-communism message, or some anti-tradition message, or anti-progressive message. All of these could have been easily pulled off in writing the show and in the book, but they weren't, for the most part. The Baron is greedy and jealous. His reasoning for framing Edmund was his own selfishness. It stayed with him until the very end. And then you might get the message from that like, oh, rich people suck, money corrupts people. And this could be seen as like anti-capitalist or anti-1%. Hell, in the beginning, they even make a joke about it being impossible for rich folk to be good people. But Edmund was rich, and he was as straight and narrow as they come. He truly wanted to do right by people. He trusted everyone around him and kept all of his promises. In fact, he was probably the richest one in that whole ship. Yet, He was the one that got screwed over, and everyone else that screwed him over is viewed as the bad guy. And what about Albert? Even after suffering severe loss, he still found it in his heart to forgive both his father and the Count. And you're gonna try to tell me Albert isn't rich? Everyone in the show is rich. Money doesn't corrupt. Something else does. But I'll get to that in a bit. That's the most obvious example. But if someone tries to come to the conclusion that corruption is rooted in the government, for example, what about Morel? He was the one who gave Edmund the power everyone else wanted. You could say it was love, that love causes people to abandon their closest allies and stab them in the back. But Mercedes loved Edmund through and through. Yet she still screwed him over. She still deserved revenge and got that revenge. So love by itself is not enough? Loving Edmund wholeheartedly couldn't have been her downfall, right? She truly believed Edmund died. They make a point of giving her sympathy in the show. Is she really a skank who would abandon her lover for another man? Yes. Let me explain. Mercedes' incompetence and naivety is actually the catalyst for all the events that allowed the Count to be framed. If it wasn't these men, it would have been some other power-hungry men along the way. So long as he was with Mercedes. Money doesn't corrupt. Safety does. First, let me just say, money buys you safety and nothing else. Money cannot buy you adventure. It cannot buy you love. It cannot buy you esteem or anything truly rewarding. It buys you safety. It buys you food, shelter, water, insurance, safe transportation, all that stuff. An example I see in my own life is Austin. He would keep telling me that he wants a channel like Sam and Colby. He wants to make those kinds of videos. But instead of doing risky stuff like trespassing, he wants to pay money to make sure that he's safe no matter what, and that he could just pretend like he's trespassing. But guess what? If he succeeds, then the video won't be what he originally wanted it to be. There's a part of him that wants risk, and there's another part of him that wants safety. And he doesn't realize that there's two different parts of him arguing with each other, and one of them has to win. Sam and Colby videos are not interesting because they explore abandoned places. They're interesting because they're taking a risk exploring abandoned places. Money doesn't buy you risk. You can have risk right now if you wanted to. No money needed. No, it's safety, or rather, the unquenchable desire for safety. So much so that you're willing to sacrifice the whole notion of risk and throw it out the window. That's what corrupts. People need to balance their lives. You need risk, and you also need safety. But risk and safety are a seesaw. When you get too much of one, you lose the other. Look at all the villains throughout history. It wasn't their money that made them villains. Elon Musk is the richest person in the world. And according to most, he isn't a villain. I mean, if he's a villain, boy, do I have a whole world of people to show you. But these people, the villains, it was the desperate pursuit of more and more and more safety that made them evil. It was rich billionaires who are so secure in their future, but they will still throw others under the bus to receive just slightly more extra money in the future to secure their future just a little bit more. It's politicians who lie to the public to protect their own image because they fear for their safety. It's people who try to eliminate all the nature from their lives because the will of nature is random and it can affect everyone and it shows no mercy. If you truly want to be safe, you have to abandon nature because nature does not care if you live or die, if your family, your loved ones live or die. And that's a part of life. If you're strong, you have to accept it. You have to accept that sometimes you just die. And to run away from it, to act like you should be safe, that life should be safe and the world should be under your control, and that we should be able to predict every situation to make sure we're all safe all the time. That's hell. And you all know it. And even though people are smart enough to realize this, they're too weak to be truthful to themselves. We see something similar with people in power. When you're told that you as a commoner could never marry the woman you love who was a noble, it's not the power that's to blame. It's their need to feel safe. From an outsider looking in, you could say, oh, how could they see a commoner as a threat to their family name? Like, yeah, it's a threat, but don't they have enough wealth and power already? Well, I could ask the same of you. Like you guys watching this video right now on a piece of hardware designed by the rich for the rich. If you can hear this, that means you have electricity. That means you're luckier than hundreds of millions of people who wish they had even a fraction of what you had. 30% of you will be watching this particularly on iPhones made by Apple. They're phones that have costed a handful of dollars to make by slave labor that you paid hundreds for. Do you not have any value for that money? You know, even having an iPhone puts you in the upper echelon of the richest people in the world. You can also understand English. Congrats! You've accomplished something that over 1 billion people globally are still making an attempt to accomplish. Many great talented people who will never have the potential you have simply because the language they speak. If you have access, if you're watching this on my YouTube channel. First of all, there's over 2 billion people in the world who are unable to view this video at all because their oppressive governments need to verify every single piece of media that their citizens can consume. And that also means that you have internet access, which puts you in the top half of the world. Now you're living in luxury. You're living in more luxury than the kings and queens of 200 years ago could even imagine. Who the hell are you to complain about someone else wanting more safety and more security? You are among the safest in the world. Some people will cry if they lose their phone, and some people will look at those people and go, what an idiot. This tiny little threat to their safety, how could it make them cry? But a threat is a threat, and we all feel that, no matter what position we're at in life. The evil comes from the people who see threats and want to completely eliminate them. The great people of the world, the truly great people, the good guys all through history, were the people who saw threats to their way of life and sought to embrace them, as foreign or as harmful as they may be. It isn't the political power that corrupts people. It's people wanting to save their skin that corrupts them. So they end up chasing political power because they're scared. They're scared of losing something that keeps them safe. Neither money nor power corrupts. Safety does. But there's something I didn't take into account, and it's the ultimate deciding factor of all the decisions you make in your life. The ongoing battle between fear and love, the great arbitrator of your subconscious. What exactly do I mean by safety? Well, I'm talking about the fear of losing something that keeps you safe. Safety is just a placeholder word. In reality, it's fear that's the root of all evil. You're a person working in government who knows state secrets. You can make the choice to leak them and help the citizens, or you can keep quiet. And that choice will be determined by which emotion wins. Your love for the citizens or your fear for the government and fear for losing your life. This is why we consider Edward Snowden a hero. It's why May turning on Azula doesn't feel like a betrayal. A betrayal is when you choose fear over love. When you betrayed someone that you're loyal to and your loyalty was driven by love, but your betrayal was driven by fear. However, if your betrayal is driven by love, then it's not a betrayal and you're the good guy. We can go even deeper than this. Where does fear come from? Well, let's explore. Fear versus love, two sides of the same coin. And this could be seen perfectly in the character of Mercedes. I want to take a detour on this train of thought. The road to hell is often paved with good intentions. I found this difficult to understand as a kid. If your intentions are pure, but you still made a mistake, wouldn't God forgive you? Well, no. Whether you're being judged by God or judged by other people, you are not judged by your intentions. You're judged by your actions, by what you do. When archaeologists dig up your body in 10,000 years, they're not going to care about how you felt or about what you tried to do or what you identified as. They're only going to see what you did do, who you actually were, and what your nature was. If someone is watching your life like a movie, they won't know what intention you have in your head. They will only judge you based on your actions. You could intend to get up out of bed right as you wake up, but if you just lay there awake, then it doesn't matter what you intend to do. You might as well intend to sleep in because it results in the same thing. You are judged on your actions, not your intentions, and that is exactly how it should be. And you might say, oh, but Afraz, what if I tried so hard to do the right thing, but I got fooled into doing the wrong thing? Like when Kakashi killed Rin. It wasn't his intention, but he still killed Rin, and there's no getting around that. Why am I saying this? Because then you would have a coward's solution to salvation. Do nothing. Be an innocent bystander to every situation. Don't risk ever doing the right thing. And if you mess up something on accident, don't worry. Your intentions were to never hurt anyone. Stay weak. Don't ever make yourself strong and make yourself try to accomplish something with your life or try to change the world. It rewards the weak. But in nature, the weak fail. This is the real world. I know people in the West, especially the United States, who are incredibly disconnected from the real world. So they think it's okay to be weak. But you should encourage people to be strong, to take reality into their own hands, and to force their good intentions into the world. And then you might say, oh, but if you encourage everyone to be strong, doesn't that mean that the people with bad intentions will also be strong, so they can also manifest their bad intentions into the world? Yes, but there are more good people than bad people. And if you disagree with me, then that means that you actually agree with me. That means that you yourself are wrong in your disagreements. It's a paradox. It means I'm right. Because anybody who would want to be selective about who should be strong is basically implying that they see a lot of evil around them. And that also implies that they themselves are not evil. That if they had the power, then they wouldn't be evil. And so all these people who are saying this should be strong. So on one side, the people that disagree with me should be strong because they themselves are able to admit that some people should not be strong and some people should be strong because some intentions should not be manifested in the world. So if you believe that, then you should be strong to make sure that those people don't manifest that into the world. And the other group of people, the people who agree with me, well, they already agree with me. They agree that they should be strong. So it doesn't matter what side you're on. You should be strong. If you truly think it's okay for you to be weak, plain and simple, you are delusional. And if you're a good person, if you're a genuinely good person, you should encourage everyone around you to also be strong. Not just because the people with bad intentions are already strong by default because of their defiance and their struggle, and that's just how the dark side works, but because a weak person with good intentions will yield the same result as a strong person with bad intentions. I want you to think about that. With Mercedes, she cheated on Edmund. If she was a strong-willed, evil character, or if she loved him but she was too weak to wait for him, either way the result turned out the same. She didn't try to go out and search for his body. She didn't take matters into her own hands. She didn't try to defend him when he was getting framed. She didn't man up and confront everyone who she knew held secrets about him. She just kept her mouth shut because she was scared. And she was scared because she was weak. She allowed a tragedy to happen because she was weak. A weak person with good intentions will yield the same result as a strong person with bad intentions. And that's why you can't judge someone on their intentions. You judge them on their actions. And like I said earlier, actions, precisely, if you were to define them, actions are the products of your intentions and your willpower. If you have the intention to save someone falling off a cliff, but you don't have the willpower or strength to do it, can you claim that you saved them from falling off a cliff? And in my mind, if you realize this, if you're smart enough to know this, yet you still choose to be weak, then you're just as bad as someone who steps on their fingers to make them fall off the cliff. Because you're allowing them to do that anyways, willfully choosing to be weak when you should be strong. To accept your weakness and not pursue strength is just as great a sin as malevolence. Incompetence is malevolence with 1 degree of separation. And you could say it's with 0 degrees of separation if you actually use your brain. But most people don't use their brain, so they don't make that connection. That's why the strong giga-chads are the good guys of the 21st century, and all the weak-willed women Karens with no self-control are the bad guys. They try to save themselves by looking all cute and helpless and weak. Oh, we're women, we don't want war. We want you to stop fighting because it's dangerous. We want you to stay inside and not get sick and not spread COVID because it's dangerous. But anyone with a brain can see the more they do this, the more full of shit they are. The more incompetent these women allow themselves to be, the more incompetent they encourage others to be, gassing up fat bitches on their Instagrams because they're not a threat to them. Oh, keep eating, eat more, eat more, eat more. Pushing these girls to eat themselves till they die. If that's not malevolence, I don't know what is. Yet it's so socially accepted in society that if you were to call it out, you'd be considered the bad guy. The weaker they are, the weaker they allow themselves to be, the weaker they push other people to be, the more malevolent they are deep in their hearts. And these men, these genuinely strong men, are too stupid to stand up for what's right. They know that these girls are wrong, yet it's so commonplace now that any sort of criticism is seen as hateful and should be censored. So you can have your peace of mind and lie to yourself, telling yourself that you aren't doing any harm to the world because of how weak and helpless you are. But that's narcissistic, and intelligent people see through it. It's why everyone with a brain hates all those self-proclaimed victims of society who get offended at everything, because they're trying to justify why their weakness should exist, instead of pursuing strength. The whole mentality of no child left behind should mean make the weakest child stronger, not hold the strongest child back. They want the strong to accept them for being weak, and the strong to also be eliminated and only for their weakness to remain. But weakness is just malevolence in disguise. If you truly think there is nothing wrong with weakness, truly, you are no better than an evil person. It's why people hate the fat acceptance movement, because they should be trying to become fit, not trying to convince the world that they should be acceptable as leeches of society. Mercedes' love was strong, but it wasn't strong enough to overcome her fear. Yes, she had good intentions, but her actions is what she'll be judged on. I'll say it once more. The road to hell is often paved with good intentions. But actually, let me rephrase that. One's intentions are in no way correlated with whether or not they end up in hell. If you intend to stop smoking weed, but you don't have the strength to do it, does that mean you stop smoking weed? If Mercedes intended to not be a skank, but she wasn't strong enough to resist, it still makes her a skank. As sympathetic as she might be, it's her weakness that led to her downfall. And on that note, I'll say it again, neither money nor power corrupts. It's fear and weakness that corrupts. And I have one more thing I want to say too. Like sometimes, not usually, but sometimes violence is the answer. But I don't want to open up that can of worms right now. I've already said enough hot takes for one video. Great anime, I highly recommend. It's a nice visual DLC to the book. The book, by the way, is extremely bloated. Somewhere in there is a much, much smaller 600, 700 page book that's basically flawless. But hey, it was written 200 years ago, and we're spoiled with, Control C, Control V, Control X, and Control F. So let's not act so high and mighty here. Yeah, it's way too long of a book, but that's really not that big of a deal. Cut him some slack. The anime has tons of issues. It's got a lot of pros, got a lot of cons, but everyone always tells the same story nowadays. It's always so predictable, especially the endings. People nowadays are too pussy to ever imply that someone could be completely irredeemable. And that's why I knew that even after this guy had caused the deaths of millions, and their whole thing was to get revenge on him, that they would just all of a sudden have a change of heart and sacrifice themselves. Not because Albert was the good guy, but just because he was the main character. If anyone else was the main character and we were looking at it from their perspective, then Albert would be this crying, whining, constantly complaining drama queen who yells and screams at everything and everyone and has extremely violent temper tantrums when someone even says something he doesn't like. Even if what they're saying is true. Albert is not the good guy, so stop trying to make him the good guy. The anime fails in that it takes a truly brilliant story and then introduces a bunch of mainstream story elements that the original story didn't have, but the fact that the original didn't have them is precisely what made it so brilliant. If this is the best anime revenge story, then anime has really got a long way to go. It wasn't the most brutal revenge story. That's probably Redo of Healer. It wasn't the most badass anime revenge story. That was probably Shikamaru getting revenge on like Geno the Trapper or someone like that, I think. It wasn't the most satisfying revenge. That would be Mustang beating Envy in Full Metal Alchemist. It wasn't even the most theatrical or dramatic revenge anime. That's Attack on Titan. Honestly, I can totally see how a super faithful adaptation of the Count of Monte Cristo could work way better than this, but it's still great. And the best thing about it is the visuals. But it could be a lot better. In fact, I think a lot of these older stories that people have a hard time faithfully adapting into live action actually work perfectly for anime. It seems like there's a real opportunity here. Like, I'd love for there to be an anime adaptation of like The Picture of Dorian Gray. I think that can really work out. That's something that's probably impossible to adapt outside of anime. Or like The Color Purple, or like Lolita. Oh wait, that's already been adapted into anime like a million times already. Maybe one day I'll actually go back and review the original book, but probably not. Hatred is blind, anger is foolhardy, and he who pours out vengeance risks having to drink a bitter draft. 8 out of 10.
It's Filthy Frank, motherfucker! It's Filthy Frank, bitch! Let's get some pussy tonight.
I want more cheese. Find that cheese. Look at that. There's no cheese.
Is that all for you?
20 minutes. No, it's 20 minutes and she paid for that.
What do you take?
It's fucking, yeah! Oh no, get away! More cheese! More cheese! That's pretty funny. Who the fuck does that? Oh no, get out of here! She's gonna get me! Give her more cheese!
Why me cranking? Why me?
Have you had your ginger shot today?
No.
Would you like a ginger shot?
Ginger shot? What's in it?
Ginger juice, straight ginger.
Just straight ginger?
It's just ginger. Would you like to have one?
Is it free?
Yes.
Absolutely. So, only ginger, no carrots, no apples, nothing?
Do you want something? Would you like to have a juice with ginger in it? Are you afraid of ginger?
No, I'm not. I don't know how pure ginger tastes like.
Okay, so it's very strong. It's a little spicy. It's a little earthy. So if you can deal with spice, which I think you can,
I can.
you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
All right. that thing way over there. The ginger shot. But after she performs. After.
Oh, it's crazy.
It's intense.
I bet.
I'm still recovering